What's going on, guys? Kevin the Tech Ninja here, and if you've been checking my channel out, I've been talking about the Galaxy S10 for the past few weeks. Well, just about a week ago, I got the Galaxy S10e in hands, and the very first video I wanted to do was to take it up against Apple's budget phone, the iPhone XR. Well, I've had a few days with both phones side by side doing comparisons, and let me tell you what the best flagship budget phone is. Let's take a look. With both phones selling for $750, the differences are going to be pretty interesting. In the hand, the S10e is more a compact phone compared to the XR, and that's mainly because of the phone's screen sizes. With the XR, you get a 6.1-inch display, while in the S10e, you get a smaller 5.8-inch display. But that's not going to be the only difference. So the S10 does have a dynamic AMOLED display at 1080p resolution, while the iPhone XR is a 720p display. So on its own, the iPhone actually doesn't look bad. Videos look really good and text looks somewhat okay. But when you go head to head with the Samsung S10e and you actually put those side by side, it is no comparison. Of course, the AMOLED display is just going to look better when watching videos, when looking at text, doing anything. Samsung S10e screen is just bar none a better screen. Now, both phones have a somewhat near bezel-less display. Each has its own special way of doing it. On the XR, you'll find the standard notch that we know and love. And on the S10e, it's using Samsung's new Infinity O display that makes this little small punch hole style camera cutout on the right of the phone. And then when you go side by side with the two phones, the XR starts to just sort of look chunky. It's a thicker phone, it's a heavier phone, and the bezels around it just are bigger than the XE. And I didn't notice how big these bezels were until I actually had it next to a XE, and it's really starting to show its age and design. It doesn't look like a flagship phone anymore. It's starting to actually look like a budget phone. Now, say what you want about the Infinity O display has a little cutout right there in the top right corner. I don't think it's that bad of a look as people are making it seem. I prefer that over the notch, as the notch takes up more real estate than just a circle, in my opinion. Now, besides those points, in the hand, these phones do feel premium. It feels like you're getting your money's worth. So both of these phones do have a glass finish. It's a combination of Gorilla Glass 6 on the back and Gorilla Glass 5 on the Galaxy XE. And Apple is using a strong glass material on the XR. There's also your usual suspects like a volume rocker and power button, and also the extra Bixby button on the XE. And just like the S10 and S10 Plus, there is a 3.5mm jack, and that's something you can't find on the XR. But the XR does have the volume toggle, which is something that I really do take advantage of when I'm using an iPhone. Although I'd use wireless earbuds most of the time, there are situations where I kind of wish I had a headphone jack. But it's just something we need to start getting used to, because I don't know if Samsung is going to keep the headphone jack much longer. But until then, kudos to Samsung for keeping it on the phone. So the S10e does have a better water and dust resistance rating at IP68, and the iPhone has IP67, which basically means you can submerge the S10e for up to 1.5mm of water for 30 minutes compared to only 1 meter for the XR. So if you look at user experience and performance, you are going to notice a couple things. I don't think the difference is as big as a lot of people will say, because both phones are just different. On the XR, you get Apple's flagship A12 Bionic chip, which is a hexa-core CPU, along with Apple's 4-core GPU and 3GB of RAM. With iOS 12, the overall experience, I hate to say it, it just works. The software is mighty simple, but everything I need is there. And all the apps are well refined, and I'm starting to realize that there are still some high quality apps on iOS that are not available on Android. With the XE, there's the flagship Qualcomm Snapdragon 855 octa-core CPU. Again, a flagship processor. It comes with the Adreno 640 GPU and up to 8GB of RAM. This year we have Samsung's One UI running on the software on top of Android 9.0. And for the most part, it is snappy, although it might not be as fluid as the iPhone XR in all circumstances. I do find when using the phones side by side that these phones both are extremely fast phones. Now there is something with Android as far as the scrolling. It doesn't keep up like an iPhone keeps up. It seems like the response time is a little bit delayed, as you can see here as I'm scrolling through Twitter. And those are just minor things. I think both phones are very fast phones and you won't have an issue using your day-to-day task and even doing some decent gaming on these phones too. Both of these phones, although budget, are using flagship specs, especially when it comes to that processor. I will give the nod to Samsung as the phone starts at 128 gigabyte and also there's expandable storage up to 512 additional memory, while the iPhone, as you guys know, you're locked to whatever size you get. So if you get the 64, you're locked to that. That is something to be mindful of. As the S10e, you can grab an SD card and move things over to that, which definitely comes in handy when you're taking tons of pictures. So both of these phones come in some really great colors. They're loud and flashy, and I think it's a really good look for both companies to get some excitement and, you know, kind of make this phone fun. I really do like the colors. On the iPhone, I do like their canary color and their red iPhone. I think those are my two favorite looking colors, but the Galaxy phones, they actually finally have some really nice colors. I do like the Prism White. It looks sort of like this unicorn type of white. It has like a color shifting effect. It's really cool, and it's something you really need to see in person. Since we're on the back, we might as well talk about cameras. There's a dual camera setup on the S10e, 12 megapixels and 16 megapixels. And this camera actually gives you the ultra wide angle, which I really dig. It also has a variable aperture compared to the iPhone's XR single 12 megapixel camera setup. And there's a bit more value added to the XE camera setup, even on the front, as you get the 10 megapixel camera capable of doing 4K videos to the iPhone XR 7 megapixel camera. And the 7 megapixel camera is of course used for Face ID on the iPhone, whereas the XE, you'll get a side mounted fingerprint scanner for biometric authentication. Face ID versus the biometric authentication fingerprint scanner, it's kind of up in the air. It really depends on the person. I do find Face ID for authenticating for apps or authenticating for purchases is much easier. When it comes to unlocking the phone, I don't like to Face ID then swipe up. Whereas on the S10e, I just tap the fingerprint sensor and it wakes the phone up and unlock it at the same time. So I think both are good solutions, but the iPhone does feel a bit more futuristic. Now, when it comes to picture quality, I think this is gonna be very subjective and I may have a very unpopular opinion, but I don't really like Samsung's camera in all situations. I think outside, it's a great camera. It's bright, wide angle, looks amazing. But when you come inside with less than ideal lighting, the skin tones become extremely muddy and the details are really lost for me. And also the camera just seems to want to overexpose every single picture. And to make the pictures really look good, you have to click on the picture and slide the actual exposure down a little bit to get a better picture. And for me, I think that's kind of a big disappointment, as Samsung's cameras are generally pretty good, but it kind of feels like this year's rendition of it hasn't changed too much. The iPhone XR's camera, I'm not gonna say it's amazing, but I think I get a natural shot. It looks more realistic. It doesn't feel like it's over processing these pictures. And I think overall it looks good in more so situations. If I had to have one camera to take the picture, I'll use a XR, but I still think the Samsung image processing is way better outside and with tons of light. It really grabs in those details, but once again, less than ideal light, it gets extremely muddy. As far as battery go, you get a 2974 on the XR, and it supports fast charging via the Lightning connection if you buy an additional fast charging accessory from Apple, as well as Qi wireless charging. On the XE, you do get a larger battery, 3100 milliamp, and it supports 15 watt wired and wireless charging. It also supports Samsung's newest wireless power share reverse charging feature at 9 watt, which essentially turns your phone into a portable wireless charger, so you can wirelessly charge your earbuds or wirelessly charge anything else that you may have. I'm finding that to be sort of a gimmick right now. I haven't used it as a practical thing yet, but it is still new technology, and Samsung likes to pack in the new tech into these devices, so I'm all for it. Overall, I do find the battery life on the XE to be phenomenal. Samsung has figured out some voodoo with these phones this year, and the XE's battery life is, for me, has been really good. The XR's battery life, I wouldn't say is bad, but I am finding I am eking out more screen time on the XE. I'm averaging around 5.5 hours of screen on time for a full day usage, whereas on the iPhone, it doesn't give you screen time. With the same usage, I find the battery dying a couple hours earlier than it would on the S10e. Between the two phones, my money is on the S10e. Overall, it's a better phone. It feels newer, it's thinner, it's a better looking phone. The camera, although it's not perfect, it's definitely passable. It just has a lot more tech in it, and I just think overall it's just a fantastic phone. But it always goes back to that ecosystem. What ecosystem are you in? Can you switch ecosystems? And I think for the value, the S10e starting at 128 gigabytes for the $749, I think that is a whale of a deal. And I think OnePlus has something to worry about this year when it comes to that market, that $600 to $700 phone range. So anyways, guys, that was my long-winded opinion. I want to know what yours is. Let me know down below in the comments, and also hit subscribe if you're not subscribed already. Kevin the Tech Ninja, have a great day. I'll let you guys later.